Look, this is someone that has been very beneficial online by providing very respectful, helpful, positive, and development advice to people to changing their way of thinking. Most importantly, this person provides very practical, relatable, and useful information. This is Blue Couch Therapy. This individual woke up one day and realized it was so simple. All he had to do was change the way he thought, and it would change his life forever. Now, this individual has realized the benefit of it and wants to teach you. Please watch our interview and enjoy. All right, everyone. Welcome back. This is another episode. We're here with Cody True Hagobi Dujan. And this is someone that's been doing a great job online, not only in positivity, but is also an author. And more importantly, he gives a great message to people in different formats and different sources. So please welcome Cody.
Thank you kindly. It's an incredible pleasure to be on the show and your platform. Thank you for having me and giving me this opportunity to share some light and positivity.
Yeah, man, definitely, definitely. I've been following your stuff. I kind of came across you personally from the YouTube side. So
Mm,
congrats on kind of the stuff you've
thank
been
you.
doing.
Thank you.
And yeah, I kind of wanted to kind of give people an introduction to who you are, and
Mhm.
just maybe feel free to just introduce yourself if you'd like.
Yeah, for sure, man. My name is Cody. I'm 32 years old. I'm a self-realized man, and I do my best to create all things. Like I'm a creator of all things, really, you know? I think anything that my heart can conceive or my heart believes and my mind can conceive, I want to create it, you know? I create the music that I want to listen to, I create the videos that I want to watch, create the movies that I want to see. So, I feel as though that we all have such great like an unlimited potential within us. And I feel as though that's why I'm here to express myself to encourage other people that they can too.
Definitely, I think it's very beneficial for people to see that in firsthand. There's sometimes they have that hesitation, right?
Agreed.
And so people need someone to actually go through that. And where does this actually come from? Like, do your need to kind of want to encourage people to do good things and just see the best versions of themselves?
Honestly, man, I feel like the world is full of enough hatred. The world is full of enough bigotry and things that are of no use, to be honest, you know? So I think for me, like the fact that I think life is tough enough already, and I don't ever think that there's a reason for us to be hard on one another. So I just try to impart and put out a message that I would want to receive, you know? I'm a firm believer that you get what you give. So if I put out positivity, it comes back to me, pressed down and shaken up, you know? So
Wow. No,
yeah.
that's amazing, man. And just for people that aren't aware of your story and everything, so were you born here? Did you move to Toronto area? Like,
Yeah,
what's your
so
story?
I was born in Toronto, Toronto
Okay.
General Hospital. Yeah. I grew up in Brampton, which is about, what would you say, 45 minutes outside of Toronto area for all those that are unfamiliar with the area. But yeah, I grew up in Brampton my whole life. And then now I'm pretty much a nomad. So I live all over the place. I'm seeing my parents now. This is actually where I'm in. I'm in my old room that I used to be in probably like maybe 5 to 7 years before I went on my own. So
Mm.
yeah,
Back
lived
to
in the
the
GTA my whole life.
Okay, okay. So back to the roots and everything like that.
Yeah,
That's
no
good.
doubt. No doubt.
And so what was your childhood like in Brampton and just growing up? How was that?
I think it was pretty cool. You know, I think it was pretty cool. There, to be honest, like the more that I learn about psychology and self development, there are some things that I'm looking to unpack in my life. You know, there was things in my life that, as an adult, you can like look back and say, okay, maybe those things might not have been the best for a young person. You know, but nothing in the sense of like I don't know how to describe it because whenever I always used to have this kind of thing where I would just kind of gloss over everything in such a positive way that everything's fine, yeah, no problem, you know. But then when you look back at things, you're like, okay, well, no, they shouldn't have said that to you, or they shouldn't have done those things to you. So I think that like I enjoyed it. I think I had a great childhood. You know, I was able to be a kid. I think a lot of young people might be, you know, might say that they weren't able to be children, but I was lucky enough to have both my parents in the home, so I was able to be a kid at least for a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. And it's so funny you mentioned that. There was a good saying that I recently learned is people always talk about like a mature kid or a mature child. Is people forget that that's still a child, like whether
Right,
they're mature or not. So
right.
it's very imperative in their development to still let them be a child and grow up and develop in those
Mhm,
things. So I
mm,
kind of wanted to touch on that too, is development, right?
mhm,
And so what is something in your development in your life or what you've seen that
mhm.
really enables you to being who you are today?
Honestly, the fact that I realized that you can change your life, You know, I'm a kind of guy that anybody that knows me, I used to work 3 jobs. I used to work in the warehouse, like just kind of anywhere. And like I used to be, I used to think that I couldn't change. You know, I was always kind of like chasing this external dream and thinking that like everything was always just out of reach. I couldn't get a nicer car. I couldn't get a partner. I couldn't get these kinds of things. I don't know where those limiting beliefs came from, but they were just something that was instilled in me for the large portion of my life. It was always like I had to wait for some sort of external validation before I could start to live my truth. And then one day I realized that's not that you have it backwards. You know, you have to live from the inside out and not the outside in.
Wow, man. And was this something that happened in terms of I know you said you can't put a finger on how you
Mhm.
were like that, but was this something in the sense of maybe it's just so far out of your reach
Mhm.
and attaining these things and the successful things? Was it doubt? Was it like what from what you think in retrospect, what do you think it was?
Honestly, I think poverty, you know, this idea of the poverty spirit, where it's just kind of like you see the things around you, and there's always like this idea of like there's not enough. You know what I mean? Like mom and dad is both working, or dad is working, and I'm trying to work to get extra money, and then it's always never seems to be enough. You know, you work all day, and then it's not enough. So then in my mind, I'm like to myself, you know, growing up in that kind of environment, it's like, well, after 30 years, you kind of condition yourself to think like there's not enough. You know, there's not enough for me to there's only enough for me to like pay the bills and then sit around and maybe get something to eat or whatever, you know? But I just started to realize that like if we look around the abundance of nature that has to offer us, you know, there's enough, there is more than enough for us all to get everything we want if you allow it, if you believe in it, you know?
Get what you want and then some. And
And then some, yeah.
yeah,
Be-
and go ahead, please,
No,
please.
I was just saying that like the example that I love to use is the grocery store. You know, like I go to the grocery store and I think that like I'll see a bale of apples, maybe 10,000 apples in one bucket. That's one grocery store in one parking lot in one, you know what I'm saying? And there's 1,000 in probably the GTA. There's probably about like 500 grocery stores, gotta be. And then each of them have 10,000 apples in it. So nature is enough. Nature is telling me that, hey, there's enough that you can eat apple if you want to, you know, don't think that, oh, well, I can't afford to eat apple. So I have to eat, you know what I'm saying? Something else. There's
Right.
enough. There's enough. Yeah.
There's definitely and in addition to that, I think just adding on to it is there's times where when we're talking about in pursuit of your goals,
Hmm.
um, a lot of times it seems like it's rushed. Like I
Yes.
don't know what it is,
Yes.
Cody. Like sometimes people are always in pursuit, which is fine, but you're in a, like even look at the wordplay. Is the word is called chasing your dreams,
Hmm.
and so
Hmm.
sometimes there's actually joy in the process of whatever it is you're doing. So I just kind of wanted you to
Exactly.
comment on that, and what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly because in one of the essays that I'm writing now, I talk about it's like exactly what you said, the term you're chasing it. Can't you see that it's running from you? You know? So in that it allowed me to think about it from a different perspective and it to where it should be chasing me. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like I shouldn't be out here chasing money. Money should be chasing me. And then once I made that switch in my mind, then I'm like, okay, well, I don't need to spend every waking moment trying to like work to get money when it's like there are people out there that are already living the kind of life that I want. There are people that are there that are creating and using their talents and skills to leverage their income as opposed to just like working, you know, trading time for money. And again, I have nothing wrong with that. We gotta work, you know what I'm saying? We always all gotta do something. So I just think that like, yeah, when you're chasing, that was something that really it made me waste a lot of time because I was chasing this like idealized version of what I thought it meant to be successful, what I thought it meant to be a good man, and then as a result it's like everything is just so far away, everything is so far away, you know. So I think once you understand that it's you, then everything opens up.
What do you see in people on average, just from
Hmm.
conversation with friends, peers, family? Is there something, Cody, that people are doing that maybe their mentality is out of
Hmm.
check? What is something that people really need to work on in the development phase?
Honestly, I think slowing down. I think this world has us so caught up on getting a job, getting married, getting money, getting a new car, getting that we never focus on like the being, you know? Because before there was car, bro, before there was Lamborghini, there was us. You know what I'm saying? There was man, there was you can think that like maybe in the last 50 years before there was phones, you could sit down and like go in the stars, you know what I'm saying? And just like sit outside and just think
Mm.
about the day, think about but like now it's like everything is pinging you, you know, your phone is pinging you all the time, your friends are pinging you, people around. So I think it's like it causes us to I think it causes a lot of mental fatigue. And then as a result, it doesn't give us the time necessary to process things and take our lives in directions that we want them to go.
And so, what would your advice be to these people if hypothetically everyone
Hmm.
was to say, "Okay, we want to find the right way. We
Hmm.
will kind of slow down." Is it just literally a matter of maybe taking some time out in a week, in a day, just
Hmm.
kind of decompress? What is the ideal method?
I think, yeah, take time every day to decompress, be in nature as much as you can, because it's like it doesn't have to be anything grandiose, but you could just leave your phone in the house and just go for a walk around the block, 15 minutes and come back. Take a breath and just like take a moment to observe the beauty of the sun, of the of the star, of the sky, of the grass around you, of the area you live in. Meet the people around you and just kind of get, yeah, and meet the people around you. Look and see what's outside of there and not like get caught up on the bills and what could be, and the fact that like, because that's really like I was always like that. I'm like, oh, bro, I can't do something like this. I gotta work, or I gotta be applying for jobs, or I gotta be, and it puts you in this very stressful mindset. I think like the fight or flight mentality. And then we know what stress does to the body, what cortisol and all these things do to the body. It makes us age faster. And I think that it really it's detrimental. I think it's detrimental to the people.
You seem like someone from the outside looking in is you're very definitive on what you know you want and you
Hmm.
kind of know your parameters of things to
Hmm.
avoid and kind of say it's so what would you say that actually is if someone didn't know you and you were just to say, hey, this is kind of the my way of thinking or these are my objectives and these are the things I tend to stay away from and the things I disagree. What would you say to that?
I would say, okay, can you repeat the question, please?
Sure, sure. So from the again, like from the outside looking in, you seem very tunnel vision, and I mean
Hmm.
that in a good way. Like I think if someone was to put you in a situation,
Hmm.
you would know if this goes against your morals or goes
Absolutely.
towards your morals, and you would be able to definitively kind of juggle that in your mind and clear the direction where you need to
Hmm.
go. And so, if someone didn't know you and someone said,
Yeah.
"Okay, who's Cody?" Like, I want to know what kind of man is Cody. What is some of his morals? What does he stand on? How would you define that?
How would I define that? What I stand on is truth. I work tirelessly to do my best to speak the truth, always. That's why I'm True Hagobi. Everything I say is the truth, everything I come true. So it's to me, I feel as though you have to have, especially as men, we have to have a code of conduct. We have to have some kind of rules that okay, for me, just paraphrasing, I have it, let me get it because it's in my you guys will be able to get a sneak peek of my second book, Follow the Threads. But I will read for you guys my code of conduct, and I believe every man should have some kind of how we conduct ourselves. So for me, my code of conduct is: number one, women have the right of way. Number two, give warning when approaching or passing. Number three, respect the rules of the land. Number four, make as many connections as you can. And number five, be courteous at all times. So to me, these are kind of just some of the basic rules in which I live by. So that way, when things come to me, and the thing for me is like I know who I am. So like no one can come now at this point. When I was younger, maybe 10 years ago, when I was still up in the air, somebody could say something to me and manipulate me or say something that might make me do something that goes against what I believe. But now I know who I am as a self-realized man, and I just like stand on the truth. I stand on the truth.
And like for example, going back to some of your code of conduct, women
Mhm.
get the right of way and or kind of respect the rule of the land. Where do these come from? Are these from experiences, from advice? Like where do these come from?
This is from experience, from my lived experience as as a person that's always been friendly, always been outside, always been active. Like I find these are the kinds of some things that have helped me along the way to navigate easier in this world.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you being someone now, like at your age now, where you've kind of added this to your armor and your arsenal of
Hmm.
who you are, which is beautiful to see, by the way, man. Congrats.
Thank you.
Um, is that does it come across as arrogant to people? Like, how do people perceive it? Do they get a misconception of who you are now, or do they respect it? Like, how is that? Because sometimes in pursuit of changing yourself, you tend to change people's opinion about you as well,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
And so, is there any experiences that maybe some that went well, some that didn't go well that you can maybe comment on?
Yeah, I would say where it didn't go well, because I was in a relationship prior to this awakening, and I thought I was what I thought I was, or what I wanted was the traditional kind of like neoconservative, okay, this is what I'm going to do, this is the husband that I am, this is what. And it was more so one day I just had an awakening where I'm like, this is not what I want but this is what they told me that I wanted, you know? So I needed to take a step back and see, okay, is it that I really want? And then rebuild my life in that regard. So essentially, like my life is flipped upside down this last, year. I would say this last year. So I'm rebuilding myself to the place in which I want to be, to create the life in which I truly desire and want for myself. But I would say that what's tricky is that change is for you only, you know what I'm saying? And the most part is like I can't change anybody else, you know what I'm saying? I can only live my life in a certain way, and then when people see the results in my life, then they can say, hey, what have you been doing? And then I can share with them my lived experience, you know? But for me to sit here and say, no, you need to do this, you need to do that, it never works. It never works.
There's no actual rule book. It's life is so unique and so different
So
that
unique, yeah. And even still, it's like it's so unique for everybody else individually as well too, you know?
yeah, and
Yeah.
everyone takes things different ways, and it's
Yeah.
interpreted differently too.
Yeah.
And so if you could maybe explain the name. So Blue
Mhm,
Couch Therapy. It's
mhm.
a really nice name. Could you
Thank you.
explain to where is that? What was the meaning behind that? What was the message behind that?
Well, funnily enough, when I first started creating content, I had a big blue couch. It was a big blue sectional that I had in the living room, you know? And to me, like therapy is just to talk, have a session and be able to speak with people. So it's like you come to the blue couch, we sit and we talk like how we are doing now, you know? We learn something new about one another and we learn something new about ourselves.
Wow, man. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. And you chose this direction of there's really good messages in here, man. And we'll touch
Thank
on
you.
more and more as we speak. But these messages, what made you share it? Is it because you realized it and then you
Hmm.
thought, oh man, I got to share this to people and maybe they
Hmm.
could benefit? What was kind of the purpose of sharing it? Because you could have made 1,000 other topics, 1,000 other channels about 1,000
Yep.
other things, but you
Yeah.
decided to go specifically on this, which is very minimal on YouTube. And more
Hmm.
importantly, I think it's probably one of the most beneficial things for people. So what made you
Hmm.
choose it?
Well, that's the thing, you know, it's beneficial. I feel as though that I've had a lot of in my life, like people have always been like, thank you, Cody. The information that you've shared with me has helped me in some kind of way. You know what I'm saying? Might as well ask me for relationship advice or financial advice or whatever. And I just do my best to help based off the things that I've learned. Funnily enough, I'm what they may refer to as like a risky individual. I try everything. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So my whole thing is like, I'll go down this road to see what's up. And then if it's out, so I can come back and tell you, don't go there.
Wow. Okay. Okay. So that's interesting, man.
Yeah.
Was that always that the case for you? Like growing up,
Yeah,
that
that
was
was always
always
the
that
case for
you?
me. I've always been an outside of the box thinker, you know, and outside of outside of the box. So like I can't to be still and to just kind of like go down the route that they say you're supposed to go down. I can't do it. You know what I'm saying? I have to experience things. I think that's the hard head in me. You know what I'm saying? I'm not always say these things are positive. I can be very hard headed. My people that know me can tell you, you know.
No, that's
But
fine. That's fair.
yeah,
The thing I
it's
kind of want. Sorry. Go ahead.
yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say it's that headstrongness that creates the tunnel vision, you know, that creates that focus.
Well, that's exactly what I wanted to say. Is a confidence, because when I
Hmm.
see you, to be honest with you, from again from these videos, is not all these people, Cody. No one is comfortable enough all the time to
Hmm.
just speak about their life. I saw a thing where
Hmm.
you said, "What scares me about tax, like taxes." I'm like, yo, this guy is really like open, and a
I'm
lot of people,
open.
yeah, like I get where your name comes from now.
Yeah, man.
So it's really interesting because a lot of people wouldn't share one like their personal life to that
Hmm.
extent, and especially the things that they're very vulnerable about.
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
think that stems from confidence.
Hmm.
And so I want people that are watching this is how could they you can't go to the store and get confidence. You can't
Hmm.
maybe it's through life experiences or something you're born
Hmm.
with. Just how can someone be that confident to that point where they're just that open to have those kind of discussions with people?
You got to fail. I think you got and funnily enough, I don't even like to use the word failure because to me it's lessons. Everything is a lesson until the day that I die. It's lessons. So I can't say that the fact, oh, because I have debts or I have credit card that I failed. No, we tried something. It didn't go the way that we thought it would. We adapt, we improvise, we overcome, and we keep going.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's failure. And what would you say? I know you talked about the credit card debt. Is there
Mhm.
any failures that come to your mind that at the time was a failure, but really enabled you to be who you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. Even as you guys can see on my videos, there's when I used to have a studio, probably about last summer, I left my partner and then I got my studio because I said I needed a creative space to, you know, and it was an expensive, it was I guess it was an expensive place, but you know, I had money. I had taken some money out in a loan. They said, I'm going to build the studio. I'm going to make the business and do all these things. And it didn't plan out the way that I thought it would. So in my head, I'm like, oh, like, you know, I don't live my life with regrets, because the key for me is I do the best, or everything that I've done up until this point was I made the best choice with the information that I had at the time. So at that time, I thought this was the best thing to do. Okay, cool. Looking back, when they say the three greatest investors is woulda, coulda, shoulda, you know what I'm saying? So
I like that. I'm gonna
that's it.
steal
You know what I mean?
that
Okay,
one.
if we had known, then we know these things now, but that's okay. At the time, I was doing my thing, and then the internet was just too slow there. So then I ended up leaving there, and I was there for like 3 months, I think. So all this money that I spent to build the place and put it all together and all these things. And then it's just kind of like, oh, well, then you ended up leaving. So then my mind, I'm like, I could look at it as a failure and think, oh, like, you know, but why? Why would I be hard on myself when I know that life is short? Things change in the blink of an eye, for better or for worse. And we're on the up now. You know what I'm saying? We're on the up and ups now. And it, it allowed me to like to understand more, you know, it allowed me to understand more of the things that I thought, because even in that regard, I'm like, the lesson that life keeps repeating for me is that I've always wanted to be seen. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes I rush to be seen when I should be staying down to come up properly, you know? But I'll like try to rush the process. And the whole thing is that, like, you know, you're born, you don't start walking right away. You got to sit up, then you got to crawl, then you got to walk, then you got to run, you know? But my mind is like, I'm ready to run right now. And then I
Yeah.
fall and I might hurt myself. And then that's where the lessons come from.
Wow, man. It goes kind of back to what we were saying earlier about
Hmm.
chasing your dreams. It's always we're
Hmm.
in pursuit in that rush feeling.
Hmm.
And I think another thing that I kind of wanted to touch on as well is that a lot of people have fear in
Hmm.
doing this thing. And I don't know if that plays hand in hand for confidence, but a
Hmm.
lot of people deal with fear. And
Hmm.
so, how do you look at fear?
Fear essentially to me is like false evidence appearing real. I think that's somebody had that quote, but it's an acronym, you know, is a false evidence appearing real. And it's like, I think fear is one of the greatest tools of control that are, you know, can be used against us or can be used for anything. And I think a lot of times we get manipulated out of our creativity out of fear.
Oh,
Like the reason I'm about 32 right now, and I've had these dreams since I was in high school, but I was afraid. I was afraid of what people would think about me. I was afraid of what my parents would think about me. I'd be afraid of what, you know. But now I'm just like to myself, I'm not afraid anymore. I choose to live my life without fear, so I can encourage other people to do the same.
wow, man.
Yeah.
Can you say the acronym again? I'm gonna steal that. What
Yeah, for
was that?
sure. Fear. I'll put it in the chat.
Okay.
Fear, false evidence appearing real.
False evidence appearing real.
False evidence appearing real.
Wow, man. That's a really good one.
You know?
Yeah, people need stuff like that.
Yeah, man.
You had a really good video too. You said treat fear like a child.
Absolutely.
What did you mean by that?
So for anybody that's in the chat that have children, nieces and nephews, we know that sometimes they have temper tantrums. You know what I mean? But you don't ignore them. You can't just like the kid is crying and you just say, okay, well, I'm not gonna. You have to look, acknowledge them. Okay, what's going on? And I'm a firm believer of like talking through things. You know, so it's like if I'm experiencing fear, it's my brain is telling me something. There's an alarm going off. Okay, think about it like a little kid. Little Cody, what's wrong? What are you afraid of right now? Oh, I'm afraid that there's not going to be enough money. Okay, but are you working now? Do you have some savings? Do you have something that? Yeah. Okay, so then why are you afraid? Well, because last time, well, it's not last time anymore. This time we're doing something different. We're working on something new, and you don't need to be afraid. We're taking care of these things. You know, you don't need to cry. You don't need to be worked up. So because I look at it like my little self. I see a picture of myself as a little kid. He's the one that's scared about the money. He's the one that's scared about because last time we didn't have enough, you know? So it's like when I say to treat fear like a child, it's like think of the temper tantrum as a learning opportunity and as a way that you can communicate with yourself and see what it is that's causing you to think this way, and then how it is that you can change your behavior, your thought process, or your patterns in order to get out of that fear thought.
What was, looking back in retrospect, what was some of
Mhm.
your fears? Was it the fear of unknown, the fear of loss, the fear of humiliation? There's a lot of things
Mhm.
to fear. What do you think was a lot of these fears that were stopping you from doing what you wanted to do?
Fear of humiliation, and fear of what people would think of me. You know, but and that's the funny thing is that like as a people pleaser, I'm a former people pleaser, former nice guy. You know, it's always like I had this rhetoric based off of like what people tell me. You know, man is supposed to be like this. Man is supposed to do this. You're supposed to feel like this. So then it's just kind of like, well, okay, well then if I'm this idealized this idealized version of what people say I'm supposed to be, then it's like now if I okay, well now I want to rap and I might curse in my music, so now I feel as though I shouldn't because and then you start to put on a mask. Now you feel fake. You're living a life that you're not living true to yourself because now you're living based off what people say you're supposed to do.
Right.
Yeah,
And is there something people can do to kind of like I know that's the mentality.
for
Like
sure.
we were talking about the mentality. If someone said, "Hey, Cody, I just need like some advice on how to actually do. I have a fear of being humiliated.
Hmm.
What should I actually do? Should I surround myself with people that would encourage me to do more things? Should I stay away from these people? Like, what should I do
For
to
sure.
overcome my fears?"
To overcome your fears, I think the thing that really kind of stood out for me was embracing my mortality. You know, understanding this idea. I think it's Virgil Abloh as well as Jay Dilla have this notion of like die empty. You know, so it's like I think to me it's the greatest. Somebody was talking about like if you drive past a cemetery and you think about all the people that are there, they all had ideas that they didn't utilize because they were afraid, and then now they're gone. Somebody could have had the cure for cancer. They could have had the cure for the, something. You never know what it is. Out of one thing comes many, So it's like if you think to yourself, okay, well, like the I would just really just say, like, my friend, we're not all going to be here forever. You know what I mean? So it's and that's why like I create so much because one day when I'm gone, people can look back and be like, oh yeah, he was onto something.
Yeah, like that's the thing is if you could benefit someone, that's a true sign of a man. I think is if
Hmm.
from your experiences, they're not mistakes, like you said, they're not
Hmm.
failures. If I don't deem something to be a failure if someone benefited from your
Same,
lesson,
same,
right?
same.
And so that's one of the beautiful things. If one person even benefits from this video, right?
Hmm.
We did something
It's
of
just
benefit.
something. Yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah.
so I also what made me really reach out to you, to be honest with you, was there's a video you had. It was about self love.
Hmm.
And before we even get into to the nitty gritty of self love and like your whole thought, what happened that made you realize again? Was it over time? Was it like
Hmm.
kind of an epiphany? Like something happened? What was something that made you realize how important self love was?
Yeah, I think I had an epiphany one day where I was just like, all we have is ourselves. You know what I mean? Like you come into this world alone, you leave this world alone, you don't have nothing, you can't take nothing with you along the way. So it's like in the time 85 years that we have in between, you got to love yourself because all you have is your heart, all you have is your truth, and all you have is all you have is you. All you have is you.
And
Yeah.
again, going back, we were talking about fear, how to overcome it. Now let's talk about love. Like,
Hmm.
how does someone who is classified as someone that loves themselves, which is
Yeah,
beautiful, is what does that actually look like to someone watching? What would that mean? Is it the way they think to themselves? Is there
for
certain
sure.
how they take care of themselves? What do they actually look like?
I think it's a both. I think it's a little bit of everything. I think because to me, when I say I love myself, I've given myself the gift of unconditional love. This doesn't mean to me that I get to do whatever I want. It's kind of funny that it's like giving myself that gift means I have to be more disciplined, because I lost about 60 pounds last year because it's like you fall in love with yourself and then you realize that there is an idealized version. There is a version of you that you see and when you close your eyes, there's a version of you that's buff, that's rich, that's tall, whatever the case may be. And it's like you can bring that into reality. You can bring like if you love yourself enough to say, okay, I want the best for myself. Now I stop eating junk food and now I walk more. And now I stretch my body. Now I go to sleep at 10 o'clock instead of staying up until 3 a.m. because you know what I mean? So those are the kinds of things that like not only is it about the mental, but it's like taking care of the physical body as well too. And I think those things go hand in hand. Once you start to love yourself, then you're like, all right, cool. Let me make sure that everything is where it should be.
Wow. So what made you actually lose the weight, you'd say, is your mentality then,
Yes,
more than anything.
absolutely. I was telling my sister, and even in the video that I have about losing 60 pounds, it's like you can think yourself into any predicament, any situation that you want, you
Yeah.
know? So I thought in my, okay, I want to start losing weight. I don't really know where to start or where to begin. And then I started fasting. Then I started learning about keto. And then I started learning about, and then one day I just like started doing push-ups randomly, like your body will tell you what it needs to do. It doesn't have to be strenuous. It doesn't have to be grandiose. You just have to start.
Where do you think you would have been right now if you didn't love yourself?
If I didn't love myself, if I didn't love myself enough to speak the truth, I would probably be somewhere unhappy, working a job that I didn't like, and trying to maintain an image of what a man should be while sacrificing my truth and freedom.
what do you think is the harm of some certain people that say, I don't love myself," and they continue to do it? What road can that lead down to certain people? What are the harms of that?
I think it can lead to manipulation. You're open to being manipulated because somebody can say something to you that makes you feel like they love you if you don't love yourself. And because the whole thing is like, even going back to like everything that I'm creating now, I would say before, when I was 20 and I didn't love myself, somebody could say something to me, make me sign a contract, and then now I'm in servitude to you for the next 25 years because I'm chasing after money. I'm chasing after Lamborghini when I don't know who I am, you know?
And it goes back to that is knowing who you are. Mike Tyson had a really good quote. I don't know if he took it from someone, but he said it in his podcast. He said, "A man that is at peace with everyone, or a man that's smiling and
Hmm.
happy with everyone, is at war with himself." And
Hmm.
I think that
Hmm.
resonates really well, man. Like
Yeah,
you got to
yeah.
know yourself to know that these people or these things is things that I don't want to do, and these things that I
Hmm.
do want to do. And
Hmm.
wow, this is amazing, man. Because I wasn't I wasn't too privy to seeing too many people online, like I said
Hmm.
before, is saying it. And is there any other maybe future ideas of things you want to do? I know you're working on the second book, I think you said.
Hmm.
Is that correct?
Correct.
Is there certain topics or certain things that you kind of wanted to touch on, and just feel free to share about self-love, anything that comes to your mind.
Yeah. I think like self-love for me, like self-love, that's where it led me to the whole idea of like creating what I want to see. Because it's like sometimes I like look at movies or I look at music, I listen to these things, and it's like the images are degrading, and I don't feel as though that's a conducive image. Because again, now we're getting into the subconscious mind and the fact that like if you watch a lot of things, it will program you into thinking a certain way. And then now all of a sudden you watching movies or you watching listening to music, people saying you're a bad man, you're this or that, blah blah blah, and then now you start to believe it. Now you start to take on these traits, what they refer to as a self-fulfilling prophecy, and then now you don't move in a way that's of any kind of value to yourself as a man or to your family. So I feel as though for me it was really just like, okay, create the things that you want to see so that you can uplift yourself, and then anybody who finds your material valuable will be uplifted as well too. We can come together and make community.
Wow, man. I want
Yeah,
to kind of also get shed light to your book that you currently
yeah,
have. I know you're on the works in the second one. So, could you talk about the book? The title, I think,
yeah.
it's getting how to chase it, or
How to get it?
how to
How to
get
get
it.
it? Yeah,
And so, can you talk about even the title, like what made you choose that name and kind of the
most
theme of the book?
definitely. So for me, it is like you the is the ideal realize your intuition. There's something inside that voice in your head, that the beating of your heart that shows you where you want to go. Because I always say that, like, have you ever gone to like a party or whatever, and you see somebody come in and then it changed the vibe, you know? That's it. There's something that I can't explain, that I can't put a finger on, that, you know what I mean? Where you're or the fact of the matter of like, you can feel somebody looking at you even though you're not looking at them. So to me, that's it, in the sense of like there's something greater. There's something greater than the five senses, than the tangible physical in which we see. And it's like, I think that's what, even in the first chapter, is like awareness is the first thing. Because then when I started to get, I'm like, okay, there is something that's like, because like, why do I feel that way when somebody says something to me, or when they, you know what I mean? So
Mhm.
then as a result, that kind of like it opened up the channel for me to unpack the intuition. Essentially, that's what the it is to me, is the intuition. And get an understanding of how you can get in tune with that, because I feel as though that's in everybody have a gift, or like that intuition, and it's just a matter of like honing into it so you can listen to it so it can take you where you want to go.
Certainly. And speaking of intuition, there's a individual. His name is anton chekhov. He
Hmm.
was a author, and he born in 1860, passed away like
Hmm.
1904. And so what Anton Chekhov, his story was is that his father every day abused him. Like
Hmm.
he disciplined him, and he was
Hmm.
a drunk alcoholic.
Hmm.
And eventually what ended up happening is his family actually left him, and he was
Hmm.
left to kind of fend for himself. And it just makes me realize is that it was his intuition that led him to changing his perspective, kind of similar to what you were
Hmm.
talking about. Kind of had that
Hmm.
epiphany over
Hmm.
time, and it enabled him to see that, okay, yes, my father beat me, but I'm gonna still love my father, and I'm gonna
Hmm.
still try to
Hmm.
work with this relationship with my siblings.
Hmm.
And he realized that, oh, my father was also beaten by his father, so this is just
Hmm.
a trickle down
Right,
effect.
right.
It keeps being passed on. And so he changed his approach. He actually, long story short, he mended ways with certain family members. He ended up being a really successful author in
Hmm.
short tales. and some of his siblings in the same environment didn't get over that. Some of them
Mm.
resorted to drinking, some
Right,
suicide.
right.
And so you talked about tuition, so that intuition, so that came to mind. And I kind of wanted to also just kind of gear more towards that theme of, again, changing your mind
Mhm,
mentality.
mhm,
Comment on just how does someone actually do that, because you're stuck in your 9 to 5. Sometimes you're just so
mhm,
focused and you don't know if it's programming, like you mentioned.
mhm, mhm.
What is some advice, with some thoughts, like how can someone overcome that?
For sure. I think the first thing is awareness, to being aware that you want something different, you know? And then once you think about that, and then it goes back to taking it slow. Now, okay, dedicate maybe 15 minutes a day just to start. I think to think about your life in the way that you want it to be. Think about where it is that I want to go. What do I really want to do? Where do I really want to live? Who do I really want to be with? And then, okay, now you have that level, and then you build on top of that. Okay, what skills do I need to get that kind of job? Okay, what school do I need to go to get those kind of skills? And then I feel as though that once you take a moment, if you have that, that time to think, then you can start to develop different channels. And the thing is that, like, you don't have to do it, and you have to do it, but it's like you don't have to like come up with all the ideas right away. It's like you think of one thing, and then your brain will take you from there to the next thing, and then from there to the next thing, and then you just follow the thread, and then eventually now you're at a point where you're like, okay, I know where I want to go, I know what I want to do, and I know how to get there.
That's beautiful, man.
Yeah, man.
Is there any last minute? I can't believe we passed over 35 minutes.
A lie, yeah.
It's crazy. Is there any other messages that you kind of wanted to end it off with, or any advice that you had?
Oh, man, any advice is you can change. You can change your life. If you're watching this message, if you're hearing the sound of my voice, you can change your life. And you can be whoever you want to be. Whatever you want to do is still possible. As long as you have breath in your lungs, it'll be okay.
It's beautiful, man.
Yeah.
First of all, before I close it off, I'd like to, if you'd like, I'd like to have you again sometime in the future.
I'm down. I'm down. I'm
This
down.
was
I'm
good.
down. I'm down.
This was great, man. Thank you more than
Same.
anything. And if there's one person that benefited, I think that was even me. Like I took away from it more than anything. So I
Always
just
love, brother.
wanted to thank you. And so just to close it off, this individual has done a great job and has a great purpose. And
Cute.
there's things nowadays where people have a lot of things are not beneficial to people online, right? There's trolls, there's negative stuff, there's
Yeah.
stuff that's not beneficial. This is someone that's been trying to actually benefit you through different sources of, like, for example, online videos, Instagram, I've seen him on, and even through book format. So I
I'm
just wanted
active.
to salute him and congrats, man. Just keep it up.
Thank you
And
kindly.
I'll be in contact, man. So that's the
Looking
interview.
forward to it. Looking
Yeah.
forward to it. Thank you for having me on the show. It's been incredible. These are all just tapes of historic history. This is history, that we can look back on these moments in 1 year, 3 year, 5 years and say, yeah, I remember February the 21st, 2025, and then how far we've come.
Definitely, definitely. And that's it. That's the Cody interview. Take it easy, guys.
Appreciate you, brother. Thanks, man.